Well, let's get a little bit more to the space business here, because we do have a lot of questions, and I want to be fair to our audience to get in as many of those questions as time permits. And obviously, these are some far-flung questions, literally as well as figuratively. Someone asks, how will today's announcement divert resources from sending humans to the International Space Station? And I would probably add, if at all.
No, I wouldn't consider this to be in any way a diversion. This is a parallel effort. So it's not really impacting our sending of cargo to the space station, nor is it affecting our human spaceflight development activities that we're doing in partnership with NASA, which is going really well. So think of this as sort of a parallel thing. It doesn't really affect the ascent phase of the vehicle, but we're really trying to have the descent phase not be hits atmosphere and explodes. You know, that's actually what happens to all rockets otherwise.
That's a good goal to keep. Given the grounding of Russia's rocket fleet, are you in discussions with NASA to accelerate launch dates for the International Space Station missions? And what happens with your scheduled November launch with the possibility that the ISS may need to be evacuated?
Yeah, and with the Soyuz failure that occurred recently, it actually will likely result in a delay in our launch to the space station, because it sort of pushes out the other missions. And NASA rightly wants to have the appropriate level of astronaut, the right astronauts, and a number of astronauts, and with the right training and everything on board the space station when we arrive. So it looks like things will be more like January for the launch of the space station, and that is contingent upon the Russians meeting the schedule that they've currently stated. So, how
do you evaluate the fact that we're using Russia as an important partner in our space program right now? How do you feel about that? What are the risks and what are the benefits?
Well, I think despite the recent failure of the Soyuz, it is actually a good vehicle. It has a good track record. I think there may be some concerns going to the future long term with Russia, in that a lot of their expert rocket engineers have retired, because it's much more compelling financially to go into the oil and gas industry in Russia than it is to go into the rocket industry. So, so you sort of, that expertise is tailing off, and I think that may lead to decreased reliability for Russian rockets in the future. Hopefully it doesn't. But
does that give the advantage to China then?
Well, I think long term, like I said, I think China is the serious competitor long term. If you look at Russian rocketry, since the fall of the Soviet Union, there's really been no significant developments. The technology has barely progressed. No new rockets have launched since the fall of the Soviet Union. So obviously what that means is, as soon as that technology level is exceeded, then they're rendered redundant and they have no ability to compete. And I think that's likely what will occur with the Russian launch industry.
So how much longer do they have, unless they start doing some serious work, as being a viable space program there?
5 to 10 years.
And how soon does that mean that at that point China moves in? I mean, essentially in that space that they're occupying?
I'm quite confident we can take on China.
Yes. Well, let's get to another question.
Well, maybe I'm confident, but I'd rather bet on us than China.
Well, you're on the record, and I think you have a lot of people cheering for you. So right. Obviously, we'll see what happens. We'll invite you back down the road and check back.
Exactly. Could be famous last words.